welcome to the sports show with Bob Spino, where the NHL playoffs have made their own Final Four. The Eastern and Western Conference finals are upon us, and it appears, Bob, the Bruins will not be one of the last four standing.
Well, you know what? Going in, I thought we had a chance to beat the Islanders, but then I remembered who our goalie was, and he's a joke. I mean, he should have been out He should have been out at least 5 years ago, because we lost the 1 year to Montreal with Price, who's on fire again, by the way, this year. He's great with Montreal, and then we lost to St. Louis in Game 7 at home. And there's no way that, at home, the goalie should be blowing it and losing it. I know the team lost it too, but he's just terrible. I mean, he gave up 6 goals in the last game, 5 goals in the game before. He doesn't show up for the practice in the in-between day, says he's sick, and maybe he is, but what's the other excuses the other years? I mean, this guy, he blew playoff games his first full year as a goalie. We had a 3-0 lead on Philly and lost the next 4 games, including Game 7 at home. You can't be, and we had a 3-0 lead in Game 7 and lost the game anyway. You cannot do it. He's a joke, and you guys are good. I don't know if you're going to beat Tampa Bay, though. I think they're defending. They are defending.
They are the defending champions, Bob. And the Islanders, in my opinion, cannot afford to lose any of the home games this series. Right. They got to take care of home ice. There's no giving up a game there. But we have, as a matter of fact, folks, 2 guests joining us to discuss all things hockey. Now, these 2 are qualified, and I do say qualified experts in the game of hockey. They have lived and breathed and simply experienced the game for decades now. And they're going to be joining us in a few minutes here to discuss, take a recap of what happened during the season, give us an update on how the playoffs have transpired, give us their predictions for the current series and the potential upcoming series. And it's going to be a great show. This will be the first episode where we have multiple guests, not just one, and it's going to provide an interesting dynamic. So, Bob, what do you think about the Western Conference? It looks like we have the surprise upstart Montreal Canadiens and the Vegas Golden Knights in their 3rd season as an expansion team, right there in the mix again.
And they have been brutal. I'm tough, really tough, Vegas. All 3 years they've been in the league, they've been right there, and they're really hard to beat, especially at home. But I got a feeling about the Canadiens. If Montreal can win the 3 games at home, they can win 1 in Vegas because of Price. He's an amazing goalie. I mean, my brother, who's a Montreal fan, was never crazy about him, and I kept saying, why? I would trade my goalie for your goalie because I'm a Bruin fan in a minute. He just didn't have the offense around him. People forget when you have a great goal, you still need the offense to cover. You can't win every game 1-0. And he's on fire right now. And I think they can get to the cup. It wouldn't shock me. I know Vegas is tough, and they're really tough at home. And the longer it goes, the better chance they have. But I don't count Montreal out. They're really, really good. That's what I think.
So Montreal, essentially, in your opinion, is not really a fluke. They're the real deal.
Not at all. You can never be a fluke when you have that kind of goalie. When the Devils played Colorado, it was more than 10 years ago now, almost 20. They both had equally great goalies because Colorado had Patrick Waugh and the Devils had Brodeur. But I knew that Colorado, even though they were down 2-1, was going to win that series because they had enough offense to cover. The Devils that year did not. And in the end, it went Game 7, and sure as heck, Colorado won. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. You got enough offense. Then when you have that goalie, that break, that star goalie, you'll win it. You'll win it. And I think that Montreal finally has enough offense where the last few years they did not. They could get to the playoffs, maybe knock a team or 2 off, but they couldn't get any farther because they just didn't have enough offense. All they had was Japan, really. So, but I think watch out for them. There's something about them, the way they're playing.
I'm personally hoping for a Montreal Islander final. that would bridge two places where I have a lot of history with personally. So I'd like to see the Canadians knock out Vegas. That being said, Bob, we the world needs to know, how does a guy like you, a guy from Jersey, end up becoming a Boston Bruin fan, having the Boston Bruins be your favorite team and not the New Jersey Devils?
Well, when I was a kid, there was no New Jersey Devils yet. I think they were still in Colorado, whatever they were called, the Rockies or whatever they were called for a year or two, whatever. I never liked the Rangers growing up. I didn't like any New York team except for the Mets, and I don't know why. They gave me a lot of tough years, although they're pretty good now, finally. And they were good in the 80s. They're the best team in the 80s. They should have won more than they did, and would have if there was a wild card. Should have anyway, though. But when I picked my teams, it was the Mets, it was the Celtics, because one night I had to be maybe 8 years old, and the Celtics were on against the Knicks, and everybody in my house was a Knicks fan, and I felt sorry for that team in green. I mean, that was the only reason I took them. I was a little kid. It turned out they didn't need my sorrow or my rooting because they were winning championship year after year. But they made things a lot easier for me because they were so great when my other teams weren't. And hockey was always the other sport to me. I mean, when we were little, there was only like one camera, and you never saw the puck until it was behind the goalie, and everybody was dancing around, and the red light went on. But I just picked the Bruins. I'm just like, I need a team. I got the Celtics. I'll just pick the Bruins. And, the little bear was cute, I guess, when you're little, and you take them. That's it. And that's how I got there. And once I picked the team, I'm loyal to the team. I remember when Bobby Orr won it, when they were great. I met him too. Weirdly enough, I met him in the town I live in. I did not meet him in a game. He came into the liquor store down the street, down the block from where I live. Somebody told me he was in there. I went in and got his autograph. But, but my first game I ever saw, the Rangers played the Bruins. So my sister took me when I was 12 years old, 11 years old. And Espo, who was still a Bruin, Phil, and Orr both scored goals in that game and beat the Rangers 3-2. And I think John Rattel was the goalie for the Rangers at the time. And we had Gary Cheevers. I think he was our goalie at the time. And, but yeah, I never forgot it. And they both scored. I lost your voice. Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here, Bob. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I lost your voice for a sec. But
that was intentional, by the way.
Oh, really?
It was.
Oh, are they coming on?
I intentionally muted myself. It's okay.
Okay.
I didn't mean to cut your train of thought off.
No, you didn't cut me. I just kept going. I didn't know what was going on. But and they both scored that night, Espo and Orr, which was big for me. They both scored goals. And I've always liked them ever since. Once I latch onto a team, I stay latched. And hockey was my least known, but it didn't take me long to figure it out. And what's really needed to win, you need an offense to win. Because the defense is there and the goalie's there. Unless it's my goalie now. He's never there, even when he's there. But you do need a good goalie, but you need a better offense because it's so hard to score. Scoring is at a premium in hockey. That's why when Gretzky came in, he beat your Islanders. Because your Islanders were great. They could do both. But Gretzky was even greater because his offense was boom, 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 hit, gone. 1-0 before there's 2 minutes into the game. And it was 4-0 before the end of the first. And then once you get 4 or 5 goals, the other team just, folds to 10 and the game's over. And if they didn't, they'd score 3 more goals to beat you 7-3 or something like that. That's how you win. It's what I call Western hockey. Offense, I call Western. Eastern, I call slow down, punch you out, stuff like that. Like being in the alley in New York City. You get punched out. So, but that's kind of how I view it. I mean, and it's worked. If you think about it, Pittsburgh had a great offense. Chicago had a great offense. They won it. Colorado had a great offense. When the Devils won it, they had Claude Lemieux, and he was awesome. And he was a great player. He could score. They had a better offense whenever they won it. You know what I mean? And think about it. Even when the Rangers took him out, who did they have? They had Messier, the ex-Oiler, who could score and who was a gamer. So
Was Gretzky on that 94 team, Ranger team?
He was not. He came later.
He came after. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
He came later.
No, even the great Red Wings teams of the mid-late 90s, they didn't just have Chris Osgood. Look at all the scores they had.
That's right. And I mean, I know the Rangers, or I'm sorry, the Devils took them out that one. I think they beat them 4 straight in the mid 90s, but they had a great defense, and you were allowed to check at the blue line and slow the game down. The rules allowed it. They stopped it. They don't do that no more. And the Devils use that to their advantage, but they still had a good enough offense to hold off Detroit, who was actually an offensive machine. And they had Brodeur, who was just amazing. He was exceptional. So, but you still need an offense. Look at the Canadians. For years, even when in 1978, Rob, the Canadians were so good. I think they won 5 years in a row. They won like 5 years in a row, 2 or 3 different times, I believe, in their history. Even the Yankees only did that once. They had such a great offense. The one year they didn't even lose 10 games the whole year. How about that? Not even 10 games when I was in.
Are we talking to 80,
70s,
2 games
late 70s. Late 70s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they didn't even lose 10 games the whole year. And then the one year, it was funny. The Rangers finally got in it and they had to play them. Because back then, the leagues were all different and they weren't both in the East but they had to play them in the Cup. And the Rangers won the first game after beating the Islanders. So everybody thought, oh, we're great. We hate them. Pop Van sucks and all this and that. And I laughed after the Rangers won game 1. I go, you're going to lose the next 4 games. Well, kick your tail. You think they didn't lose the next 4 games to get their tail kicked? Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. So, I mean, and this is from me, from a sport that I always called it the other sport to me, because it was always baseball 1, because it was number 1 when I was a kid. Football, basketball, and then hockey, because it was the other sport. Soccer wasn't even on the radar. And in a lot of ways, it still isn't. Not in this country. We stink in soccer. Let's be real. We got our girls representing us. Let's be real. Because our guys aren't good enough. I mean, it's a joke. So, but that's another story, if we ever get, on a soccer.
I actually think our men's team is improving. They've won, I believe, 12 of the past 14 matches.
I guess it can only go one way, because for years we weren't very good.
Yeah, no, it's not like they've had a long tenure of excellence. I just believe the program is improving. I think will continue to improve. I'm looking forward to them really advancing in the World Cup. I think the furthest they really get is the round of 16, and they tend to bow out there.
No, this is the year of the World Cup. Is that right?
No, the World Cup is going to be next year, but the Olympics are happening this year.
Right.
And so I do believe there's a chance they can qualify for the Olympics. Don't hold me to that. I know they failed to qualify for the World Cup at this point. I don't know if that prevents them from qualifying at all, but they might be on a path to try to qualify for the World Cup still. I'm not entirely sure, but they've looked good. They beat Mexico recently, and that's a huge rival for the U.S. men's national team. But I don't disagree with your point. Soccer is still the little kid on the block.
It's a real little kid on the block.
It's becoming more popular, but nothing. It's nowhere near at the level that it was predicted to be at this time. Well, people 20 years ago thought soccer was going to be, the end all be all. And, as much as ESPN pushes it, I don't know what the ratings are, but I'm sure it pales in comparison to the other sports.
Right. Well, there was a time when ESPN pushed the fishing hole where a guy would go out and hunt and fish. So when they first started, so that doesn't mean anything. But you know what? I remember when I was in high school, Sports Illustrated had an article, and it was on the front cover. The new sport of America is going to replace the NFL. And I'm still waiting for that. That was a long time ago. And it has not happened. I mean, to me, soccer is like Led Zeppelin. Everybody loves them, but in truth, they stink. And in truth, they never had a number 1 hit ever. So yeah, there you go.
Come on, Bob. Levy's Break's a great song. The Levy's Break, that's a great, what's the name of it? Levy's Breaking? The Levy's Break, I think. I'm gonna get reamed by the Led Zeppelin fans. It's a good song.
Well, no offense, but I think
When the levees break. Forgive me.
Already broke.
So, Bob, our first of two guests has arrived. He will be joining us in literally seconds. And this man is affectionately referred to as Mr. E. Mr. E, are you there, sir? Mr. E is joining us very shortly, folks. Getting everything synced up, everything lined up.
Oh, there he is.
And here he is. Mr. E is on board here on the Sports Show with Bob Spino. Welcome, sir.
Hey, guys. Great.
How's it going, Mr. E? I think we're having a little problems with Mr. E's
Mr. E's internet has been up and down a little bit, so bear with us, folks. It might we could experience some in and out for a little bit, but as anyone who's followed the show in the past month, I'm not one to talk. My feed is kicked out too. So hopefully Mr. E's feed will take care of itself, resolve itself, and I believe he has found himself back with us. Mr. E, are you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm here. Hopefully it stays.
How you
great
doing?
to be on with you guys. I'm doing good.
I'm Bob.
Yeah. Hey, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
This is, by the way, not the first time you guys actually met. 4 years ago, we did an audio podcast.
We did.
Right. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I forgot all about that.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. So tell us about the playoffs. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's been a great run from the Tampa perspective. As you know, I am in Tampa. I'm kind of a large Lightning fan, but you know, I mean, Montreal has absolutely come out of nowhere to be fantastic this year. You know, a lot of that comes down to execution on defense, and of course, the stellar play of Carey Price.
Yeah.
And then you know, Vegas is playing their punishing style, and clearly Colorado couldn't match up to that. Man, that busted my bracket.
Eastern hockey in the West. That's what they're doing. The old time hockey. Each other.
Yeah. And then you know, I think the playoffs have just been great this year.
They always are. They always are.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, I think it's the best playoff in sports.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and because you don't know who's going to win either.
Yeah, and it's also kind of I think the toughest to win. You know, just because it's such a grind. You know, night in and night out.
So, what do you think is going to happen in this series?
Well, in this series, I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to take the wind out of people's sails, but you know, I think it's going to be a pretty good series, all told. I think the Islanders are going to play very structured, and it's going to be a challenge to break through that structure offensively. They're getting great goaltending right now from Varlamov,
right.
And you know, I think it's going to be a tight series. You know, ultimately, I'm going to take the homer pick and say that the Lightning will win it, but I think it's going to take the full 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and I could see it going the other way too. I'm not. I'm going with the homer pick because you know it's home. I'm not super confident in that.
You're a Lightning fan, actually. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, okay. So if you can kind of put that aside, do you still think that way that the Lightning...
I mean, I think ultimately the Lightning have too many weapons to be fully neutralized. You know, and plus they've got Vasilevsky in net to bail them out of any problems. You know, and honestly, their defense has been a little suspect in these playoffs. You know, we've seen Hedman getting beat. That's because he's had, you know, he's got an injury. He's playing through it. He's playing at maybe 75% of his capacity. So, So I mean, it's been great to see guys like Ryan McDonough step up and play a little better.
He's good.
And fill gaps.
Ex-Ranger, right?
Yeah, ex-Ranger, of course. There's always that connection between the Lightning and Rangers, right? It seems like
something like that.
Seems like the trades always go down between the two teams. But yeah, I'm excited to see this.
One thing is for certain, in my opinion, and that's the Islanders cannot afford to drop a single home game at all. Obviously, that means they got to steal games in Tampa, but the Islanders cannot afford to lose a single home game.
Well, and that's the thing. Tampa's gone into both Florida and Carolina and won the first two games in each of those series.
Right. They took it away from them.
If Tampa pulls that off, it's over.
Yeah. I mean, home ice is important, but it's never been the be all end all in the playoffs. I do agree that the Islanders can't afford to lose the home games, but I expect they'll steal at least one in Tampa, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. I think that the style of play
in New York, though, you're good enough to steal one back in New York.
Oh, of course. I mean, I expect it's going to be a close series no matter what, because you're talking about kind of the freewheeling play of the Lightning versus the structured defensive play of the Islanders, right? And there's no better coach in my mind in hockey than the Islanders coach. So, huge X factor there.
Did you think the Islanders were going to beat Boston before the series started?
I did. I expected the Islanders to beat Boston. I expected it to be a real physical series between the two because they're all warriors on both teams, right?
Right. So we don't have Chara no more, though. That kind of hurts them.
I mean, yeah, it does to a degree. But Chara wasn't exactly the greatest for Washington this year. So
but
I mean, he's showing his age.
Really good Boston, though. He was always good. He was there.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And before that, with the Senators, he was excellent too.
Right. Right.
Funny story about Chara. When he was playing in the minor leagues, I actually saw him in a minor league building on the way up, and he was so tall at that building, right? He could put a hand over the glass, right? Right. And so during play, it was whistled dead at one point, and he's playing for the road team at this point, and he picks up the puck, and actually ends up with a penalty for this, but he takes the puck and he after the whistle had blown, and he drops it over the glass to a group of kids. Like, didn't even have to extend too much, just kind of put his arm up over and dropped it for the kids.
Right.
He got a delay of game penalty for that, but it was a hugely charitable thing that he did, and I greatly respect that.
Oh yeah, we miss him. I didn't. You know what? Going in, we probably should have beat the Islanders, but when I think about my goalie, I just have no faith in him at all. I never have. He's so overrated and overpaid. It's disgusting.
Which goaltender are you talking about? Rask?
Our main one, Rask.
Yeah, well, Rask to me, I mean, the big thing was his injury, right?
No, I'm not buying that because
he's playing on a torn labrum. I mean,
yeah, I know, but where was he all the other years before he got hurt?
Well, I mean, he won a couple of cups, so
No, he won one.
Okay.
We won one. I'm a Bruin fan. We won one, and you know what? You know who was our goalie? Tim Thomas. We benched him that year, and Thomas left because he retired because he was going to stay, but he didn't. The next year, the year before, he was a rookie, and Rask blew a 3-0 lead on Philadelphia. Game 7 at home, he lost. When Thomas the next year became our goalie, we won Game 7 against the best team, Vancouver. And since then, we've had chances. We should have won 2 or 3 times since then. Every time he blew it, including Montreal in Game 7 at home, and including St. Louis in Game 7 at home. And he played terrible against the Islanders this year. He's a joke.
I had no idea about this injury. I mean, what's the rationale for playing him, Mystery? Was the backup just not?
The backup is fantastic. The backup is fantastic for Boston. The backup should have been playing these games.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. It does make sense to me.
Especially because he's healthy.
Well, not just because he's healthy, but because he's also a good goaltender, and he's probably gonna be the number one guy next year.
But there is something with him and the Bruins. He has something over on the Bruins because they have overpaid him. They love him. They kiss up to him. I don't get it. And he keeps blowing it every year.
Well, it's on Bruce Cassidy, right? Because he's the one who's making the
not in the beginning. No, we did the same thing in the beginning when we gave him that big money before Cassidy got there. Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you play the goaltender who has the most money, but or who makes the most money, but
yeah, because
he's
in the bench and all of a sudden he's a waste.
To me, it just doesn't make sense because if he's that injured, why are you playing him?
Yeah, I'm totally baffled by that. When you threw that out, I was shocked. I had no idea. Why did you play him?
Right. That fits right in with everything I've been saying. He's got something over on him. What is the deal with this guy? Why do they love him so much? I mean, I don't know.
I'm just going to say thank you, Bruins organization, for playing an injured goalie in the second round of the playoffs. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, who do you think is going to win it all?
Oh, I think the Lightning are going to win it all. Being honest, they're probably the deepest team in the playoffs. Right. What I do think is in this series between the Lightning and the Islanders, I mean, Vegas is good, and they're punishing physically, so they're not going to be an easy win. And the way Montreal has sort of gotten lucky this year, you don't want to count the luck factor out. They've gotten good at the right time.
Hot.
Yeah. So you've got these two teams coming in. It really comes down to depth at this point, right? And nobody has more depth than the Lightning right now.
No, and you know what? When we were still in it, before we got eliminated, before we played the Islanders in the last round, I was hoping that Florida would have took you out because I'm worried about you more than anybody.
Oh, everybody was hoping Lightning would get taken out.
Right.
Because that's the path to the Cup, no doubt about it.
Right. But you know what? Don't count Montreal out because they're getting hot and they got a great goalie.
Of course. Never count out the hot goalie. Nope.
I mean, the way that I wouldn't call what they're doing luck because, once you start playing as a team and then you get the goaltending you need, and Price is always there. He just needs offense. That's what he needs. He does the rest himself because you just can't get.
And that's where playing a tight checking style of game is gonna hurt Montreal in the long run, right? Because they're gonna try to match up against that and they can't. They try to run and gun maybe offense to try and spark something, but against the Lightning, that's just going to feed into the Lightning's offensive style. So you can't do that either.
Unless Price plays out of his mind, which he can do at any time.
Well, yeah, but also Vasilevsky can play out of his mind too.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. Now, folks, we have our second guest here joining in at this moment. Just give us a brief moment to bring him in. And ladies and gentlemen, here is the one, the only E-Kip here on the Sports Show with Bob Spino, connecting audio as we speak. E-Kip, can you hear us, sir? You see us,
yes.
Hear us.
I'm in.
You are with us.
First time on Zoom. Look at this background. NASCAR. I wish it was the old Coliseum with 16 plus.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to change that around, E-Kip. I failed here. I see that.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm Bob, by the way. I'm Rob's friend.
Also, E-Kip also joined us on the audio podcast 4 years ago. So this is a bit of
4 years already. Wow.
4 years.
Yeah, it's 4 years ago. It's amazing. So we've been obviously talking about the matchup. Mr. E's dropped his MO on it. What do you have to say about the series?
Well, it's a rematch. Oh, Christ.
No, we got you. Oh, no.
I'm back. It's a rematch of last year's conference final, obviously. And to be honest, in my head, I'd been expecting, without saying out loud, I kind of expected this rematch. I kind of felt that these were the two best teams in the so-called East this year, coming from last year. When the Islanders lost, I wasn't upset in defeat. I knew they had little chance to win that series, but they came out really looking like a well-put team, well-put organization. And I think they got a lot of respect with that series. And I wasn't upset losing that series because I knew that it was the beginning of something special. And, I knew if the Islanders were back in the third round this year, they would probably be facing the Lightning. So, it's an interesting rematch.
Were you still thinking that when you were down 2-1 to the Bruins?
Yes, I actually, when they were down 2-1 to the Penguins, I said that they'd win the next 3 games. With the Bruins, I thought they'd win game 4. I was very confident they'd win game 4. And then after they won game 5, I was very confident they'd win game 6.
Okay. But going into game 5, you weren't sure. You were a little nervous?
I was scared because playing in Boston is just, it's a place to play. I mean, they really bring the onslaught 60 minutes and,
right.
Yeah, pretty much. They just keep coming to that first line on Boston.
Yeah, but I'm a Bruins fan. We have Rask, and he's your best player. He's everybody's best player except Boston's. So,
I remember you telling me 4 years ago. I was a Rask fan up until recently. But, I see him struggle the last couple of years. But 4 years ago, he was in his prime still. So but he
was still losing big games. He actually lost.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to sound like a jerk, but they choked away that 2013 game 6.
Well, wait a minute. How about this one?
I still can't believe that.
How about 2010 when he choked away a 3-0 lead on Philly?
Well, that was a team effort.
7 at home. Oh no! We had a 3-0 lead in that last game.
I know. I watched the game. I'll never forget that game.
That right? And we get 4.
Yeah, but I thought Philly dominated that game. I thought Philly pretty much dominated.
We did not. We were up 3-0. We were.
I know.
That's not true.
Anyway, let's talk about this series.
Okay. I just had to. I had to rip on my goalie. I just had to do it.
Yeah, you hate him. I don't understand. He's the most hated person in Boston.
Yep.
Oh, we've been hearing about Rask for a while. So E-Kip, what do we got? Mr. E gave his take. What's your take on the series?
What did he say?
Mr. E, you want to give a recap?
Yeah, I said Tampa wins it, but it's probably going to take 7 games. I think the defense of the Islanders is too good to ignore, and I think that Varlamov is a challenge, but I don't think he's the hardest challenge the Lightning have faced this year so far.
Well, you might have to play Sorokin. He might be the hardest challenge you face this year.
Well, yeah, because we don't have a book on him.
Yeah, he's a real deal, and I actually was beside myself that he didn't start game 2 against Pittsburgh, and then he won this series for the Islanders. I was looking for him to take control, but Trotz knew best. He went with the veteran, and it worked out. He had a good series against Boston, but and he made some great saves down the stretch in that game. So I give him credit. Trotz knew what he was doing. And as far as my take on the series, it kind of brings me back, even though I wasn't alive when the Islanders played the Canadiens in the 76 and 77 conference final. The Canadiens were in the beginning of their dynasty, which kind of reminds me of Tampa Bay. I know Eric brought it up that, hey, listen, if they win this year, they can start talking dynasty, whether they win another championship down the road next year, the year after. But if they win it this year, that's 2 in a row, and they can. And they're built to win 1-0 games, 2-0 games, and they can win 7-2, 7-3 games, just like that old Islanders dynasty back in the 80s.
Right.
Beat you all different ways. So, it's going to be quite the challenge for the Islanders. The Islanders are better than they were last year, more experienced, but missing Lee is obviously. It's going to be tougher playing a team like Lightning or playing a team like Vegas. I wonder the Islanders' chances of winning the Stanley Cup. I worry because they don't have a Hall of Fame defenseman in the lineup. While they have a very good defense, they don't have an Alex Pietrangelo or a Hedman, obviously. And if you look at the history of cup-winning teams, they usually have a Hall of Fame defenseman or a great defenseman.
Do you think they're going to win this series? All fanship aside.
If my mind says that the Lightning will win this series in 5 games, my heart thinks that the Islanders, just like the other 2 series, will wrap this up in 6-0.
To me, the X factors here All right, and I was mentioning this earlier. The X factors for me are coaching, right? I think the Islanders win that matchup.
I agree.
And I think depth comes into play here, and I think the Lightning win on depth.
They easily win in depth, and I think you'd have to give the advantage in goal right now. But that's even if that's a draw, And as far as fourth and third line goes, I mean, the Islanders don't catch a break. They had a better fourth line and third line than Boston. They took out Lazar. That's another thing. I look at the Islanders. They've taken out players. They've taken out Penguin players. They've taken out Bruins players. I expect them to try to take out Stamkos. He's a big threat in that power play. Hedman, you say that he's not playing at 100%. I could see Clutterbuck trying to hit him late behind the boards. It's possible. Or someone else on the team.
All is fair in NHL playoffs, right?
There'll be clean hits, and we're not, but
but it's still war out there.
It's still war out there, and they're trying to, you take every advantage to win. The Islanders took out Backstrom last year in game 1. That was a big deal. Big for the Capitals,
But I mean, if you look at how the Lightning responded in the first round to Florida, right? And Florida was doing the sorts of things that
they were running circles around them in that series at times.
Agreed.
The Islanders don't play that style. They're not going to bring it like that, and they're not going to have their defense lagging like.
Yeah, right. They won't be out of position to make the hits, but they'll make the opportune hits. Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Okay, so you think they're either Tampa's going to win in 5 or the Islanders?
I mean, the way I think that Tampa, they match up fine against anybody, even.
No, they're great. But I'm just asking you. So you think Tampa?
So I think that our game plan is go to get a split. Hopefully, win game 1. That would be great. We won game 1 on a Sunday against Pittsburgh. It'd be great to do it again here in the afternoon. And then we go back to the Coliseum. It would be great to take 2 games, but
I think Tampa's going to win one of those games.
I think Tampa's going to win one of those games, just like, unfortunately. But I think we can get on a run here at home. We're a different team at home. I think we just play all around better defensively for sure.
Yeah, but this is the best team you played so far.
Oh, by far, this is the best team they played.
Difference.
I think they're up for the challenge of the Islanders. They're going to, but again, I think we'll find out in the first 2 games what the Islanders are made of.
Hey, Rob, what do you think? What do you think the series is going to go? Who do you think is going to win, and how long it's going to go?
I agree with E-Kip. I think it's going to be 6. I see the Islanders stealing one of the first 2 games, Lightning plucking that one, and then just I completely agree. It might be a cop-out prediction, but I wholeheartedly agree with E-Kip.
So you think the Islanders are going to win?
Absolutely.
What? I don't. I think it's.
Well, you didn't think the Islanders going to beat the Bruins either, so what does that matter?
I did.
I was. Oh my God! I will talk about that too.
I thought we could have taken them out, but I didn't believe in Rask. However, this team is the best team. I wanted them out when they played Florida because I was worried when we were still in. This team's the real deal.
Oh,
they
yeah.
won the championship last year. This isn't like the Bruins.
No doubt about it.
Remember, the Bruins
it's
are
the best team. It's the best team in the field.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're going to win.
And
and that's why you're not going to win. Tampa's going to win in 5, or maybe 6. They could win in 6. They can win 2 in New York. They could because they're good enough to do it.
Well, they won 3 in Carolina, which is arguably the loudest arena in the league.
What's that? I'm sorry. I
won 3 games, all 3 games in Carolina. That's arguably the loudest arena in the league. They had 18,000 people there. So they could don't. But there's just something about this Islander team, and there's just something about the Islander crowd at the Coliseum last year at the Coliseum. Those ghosts, they're going to come out.
We'll see.
We're hoping, and this team,
I don't know.
They're down 2-1. They don't think it's over. They'll just try to figure you out. They figured out
what do you think?
They didn't play their best series. Against the Bruins, they played a good series, and I think that they took it to the next level, and I think they could probably even take it to another level. And if that's enough, we'll find out.
Well, and I want to jump out on something here, kind of to get ahead of the complaints that are bound to happen, and that is the complaint that the Lightning are playing way over the salary cap right now.
I don't care about that. You win, it is what it is. I'm not gonna. I don't.
Yeah. Well, and there is no actual salary cap in the playoffs, so you get around that. and also, their GM was smart. Julian Brisebois did a great job of acquiring guys so that they could actually play with a team that was, somewhat compliant using all the long-term injury money. And there's, by the way, 8 other teams that are playing in a similar structure where they have long-term injury as cap relief. And I think if it's a huge problem, it'll be addressed in the next CBA. The next CBA, you're going to look at it.
You know what I think about that? I'm not really, like he said, I'm not, like Kip said, I'm not interested in that because, look, I'm not a Yankee fan at all. Okay, anybody who knows me knows that. But somebody asked me one day, I go, I hate the Yankees. And they go, why do you hate Steinbrenner back when he was alive? And I said, no, I hate the Yankees because they exist. I never liked them since I was a little kid. I go, but you know what? I respect Steinbrenner, and I wish I'm a Met fan. I wish the Mets had done it that way. Because look, it's not going to work every year you throw money, but you're going to win a lot. The Yankees have always had the most money and the best players because of it, and had the most titles because of it. There's no apology for that. If Tampa has that much money and is spending it, good for them. That's what every team should be doing if they could, and want to do if they could. So that doesn't mean anything. And you know what? Good for Tampa Bay. If that's what they got to do, that's what they got to do.
Well, I mean, it's how you keep together a roster that's as
that's right.
As the roster
it is, well, especially because in the old stayed on one team and never left it. Right.
You're maybe playing with some loopholes, but right. At the same time, you have a smart enough management team to recognize that those loopholes exist and take advantage of them.
Right. I kid you not on this. I went to the Mets game one night, and my friend, who's a nice guy, but I wouldn't call him a smart fan, a smart fan. And we're walking in and he goes, it's the truth. He's a great guy, but we're walking in and he goes, the Mets look like the Dodgers with this new stadium, and I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I don't like that. They should be more like the Cubs. And this is before the Cubs won. I go, I don't want to lose the next 108 years. How about let's be more like the Yankees? How about that? Because they win a lot, Anyway,
Yankees haven't won that much lately. They're not good.
Yeah, but they have 27. And you know what? But
how many do they have in the 21st century?
But wait a minute. Who died in 09, the last time they won?
Steinbrenner, George.
That's right.
That's right.
And what are they not doing now? Think about what they're not doing now. They're not spending like they did. As a matter of fact, Cashman wants to go under the cap now.
That's not the problem. Their problem is pitching. They can't draft a pitcher to save their life.
Well,
and they've had a lot of problems.
It's not the problem. It's the problem now is the Yankees can't hit like they used to.
They should have fired Cashman after that debacle in 04. He couldn't get them pitching. He can never get
he doesn't know pitching is why. He doesn't know it.
And he bought the World Series in 09.
Who built the pitchers? Who brought him in? That would be Gene Michael and Bob Watson when he was still alive. Yeah, and then Cashman got there and took all the credit and rolled the wave.
I got the playoff beard going. I shaved the
there you go.
Playoff game. Yeah.
I think
you know what? The Rays won their 41st game today. That's kind of a big deal right now in MLB.
It's a big deal.
It's a record.
I hate the Yanks. And by the way, the Yanks got beat today by the Phillies.
Yeah, the Yankees aren't any good, but let's talk about the Islanders since they're the best.
Oh, we're gonna no. It just I just wanted to get this in because it all fits in no matter what sport. You got to spend money. I was just going back to Tampa Bay.
Well, hockey has a hard cap, so it's structured differently than the other sports.
I understand.
You have to do you need any advantage that you can have, and I have no problem with what the Islanders did or Tampa did. The Islanders had and Zajac. Right, they were able to because the league got hurt and they needed to.
Right, and I agreed with you. That's
one thing I noticed in the Bruins series for the Islanders was the power play for the Islanders improved in terms of efficiency. It seems like the power play for the last couple of years has been atrocious for them. So if they can keep that improvement up, I really like their chances.
Well, that's another thing. They scored 6 power play goals on the road. That's amazing. 3 games in Boston. So.
Do you want to talk about power plays? Let's.
I want to talk about Tampa's power play. My concern is Tampa's power play, not so much our power play. I'm just concerned. I mean, we do a good job staying out of the box, but there's going to be a game where we get 3-4 penalties. It could happen tomorrow on NBC, and we got to be ready on the penalty kill. We could.
And on those
the Islanders are a great 5-on-5 team. They're probably as good as anyone.
Yeah.
But but Tampa Bay can win a game in 4 minutes on that power play, and that's what they do. And it's really annoying, but that's what they do.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, watching the power play all year, it's definitely different when you bring in Stamkos and Kucherov.
Oh yeah, Stamkos makes all the difference.
I mean, well, Kucherov really makes all the difference in the world because he opens up space for the other guys. And to me, that's the real change in efficiency in the power play in the playoffs. I mean, it's a ridiculous percentage, and I don't think it's going to hold up against the Islanders. I think it's what, 45% right now, or some ridiculous number. It was at one point like 80% during this playoff run. It's been obscene to watch, but for the first game or two, you'll watch them feeling out the penalty kill for the other team, and then around game 3 or 4, you'll see the switch turn on, and they'll just start pouring on goals from that power play, and that's where the Islanders need to be careful. The Islanders need to make sure that they don't take penalties, and I think that's one thing that they are very good at as a team is not taking penalties.
That's the thing with the Lightning. You could play an amazing 55 minutes or 50 minutes, and you could lose the game, in an instant.
That's right, because the goalies didn't. It's not always how many. The one night we had like 45 shots on goal and lost to the Islanders. You had like 19 and we lost.
Well, the whole thing about the Islanders, their whole system is designed not about not giving them shots, about giving low percentage shots. If you noticed, they won those 2 series and last year as well because they tend to get teams to shoot not from the center but on the outside, bad angles. That's the whole thing. They'll give up the shots, but they're not great shots.
I'm not blasting it. I'm just trying to say that sometimes you can be the team that gets.
Yeah, shots are sometimes misleading. If you get shot 18-3, you probably didn't have a good period, but
Okay.
Yeah, but at the same time, if those shots are held to the outside by the defense, it's likely that there aren't going to be nearly as many goals, right? The big thing is to keep the pressure to the outside, no matter what team you are. If you let the pressure into the middle, you're going to lose. It's a game.
What worries you about this series from a Tampa Bay perspective and an Islander perspective?
All right. So what worries me from the Tampa perspective is, is the defense going to hold up? I mean, I know the offense is going to be there, but I think that, the defense for the Lightning could be exposed here. I think that the Islanders forward group is very punishing, very tough. And I think that
very physical, very physical.
If the Lightning aren't prepared for that, or get an injury along the way, right, and another injury on top of what's already there, really the depth on defense isn't necessarily there, right? You can't really go much further down than their 7th D man.
What was the season series this year between the two?
They didn't play.
They didn't play at all.
No.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I want to get into your thoughts on the structure of the schedule, but we do have a question from a guest of the show. His name is Evan Alfano, and he's bringing it back, Bob. Thoughts on the Bruins' terrible goaltender situation?
Well, I don't know if you heard me talk about it in the past, but the goalie should be beaten with a stick, and I'll get the stick. He's terrible. I never liked him. He's overpaid. He's loved up there. Kip knows I never liked him. And now it's just showing. Sometimes time brings out the truth. Matter of fact, every time it does. And the truth is coming out. He's just not very good. Do
you blame him at all for Game 7 against St. Louis? You can't blame him. I thought it was the defense. They didn't get the opportunity.
I can blame him. You know what? Look, I worry every time they have a break or a one-on-one against him, he can't stop anything. You know what? He stands. I have a video hockey game at home, and all the goalie does to stop is go like that. He just moves his hands up. That's what he does. He just stands and watch the thing go behind him. He's terrible. The other night, you guys put one right between his legs.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. That is uncalled. And it wasn't like he was blinded. He saw the guy.
Well, he's hurt. Well, they said he's hurt.
I know, but what about all the other years? Was he hurt every single year? No.
Now, Evan Alfano, what about the coaching? Mr. E informed us that the goalie was injured, a serious injury playing through the playoffs here. Why are you playing that guy? I mean, why hasn't that question been point blank posed to him every time they lose a game in the playoffs?
Rask was fine the first 4 games, though.
Was he?
Yes,
really?
He was. I watched it. He was fine the first.
I mean, it helps that the Islanders were, shooting
Islanders
less
are
than
good
half
team.
of the
Islanders are a good team.
shots that the Bruins were putting on, and that's got to change against Tampa too. They need more shots on goal.
They don't. They just need to get opportune shots. That's not
exactly. So it's not about the number of shots. It's about the quality of the shots.
Exactly. It's scoring chances.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
The thing with Rask though, he gives up too many easy goals, and he's done that all his life. And
so does Varlamov.
Huh?
So does Varlamov.
Yeah, but he's our main goalie. We gave him all this money. You should.
Oh, I know. But he's gone.
You should have been looking for other goalies a long time ago.
I was sitting right in front where Marchand scored that ridiculous goal to goal. Right. How do you explain that? That was a bad goal, even though he had a wonderful game.
Yeah, but every goalie gives up a bad goal once in a while. He does it consistently. When that happens, you got to start looking at him going, something's wrong here. And he does.
Well, I think he's out in Boston. I don't think you have to worry about him anymore.
Praise God for that.
He'll be in Calgary or Edmonton someplace next year.
I got a question. What do you think about the West? What do you think is going to happen?
The West is not as good as the East, period.
I agree with that.
Totally agree.
No one's giving Montreal a chance. I will.
There you go. See, that's what I said.
Yeah, Vegas, their issue has been that they haven't been able to score goals. Now, they've changed that this year. However, I'm not surprised they beat Colorado. They're just a physical team. They're kind of the Islanders. They wear you down, and they can score at times also. And they have size, and Reeves is a bodybuilder, so they're tough. But have they been challenged this year? I mean, like the Islanders.
Well, and you bring up the scoring. You bring up the scoring, and that's going to be a very valid point against Montreal. I think you're swaying me to say that Montreal has a good shot in this series.
I think it. Look, if Vegas is not going to score, that plays right into Price, who's a good goalie anyway.
Right. I'll take Vegas in the series. I mean, they have the home ice.
They should win.
But I think Montreal's going to win one of the first 2 games. I really do.
I think they can. I think Montreal can pull it. It wouldn't surprise me either way with this.
I would be ecstatic to see Montreal win.
I'm sure you would.
I hate the Rangers. There's no other team I hate besides them. But if I had to pick a second team, it's Vegas.
Oh, you hate them that much?
I just can't stand them. The rules that were made for them and their uniforms and everything just about them. They're just annoying. And they went to the Cup Finals the first year. I was so happy Washington won. And then they choked away in San Jose. I went to sleep. I thought the game was over for Vegas.
Right.
I didn't even see that when they choked it against San Jose. I didn't watch that live. I went to sleep. It was 1:00 in the morning. They choked it away. Right. I was shocked. So I would like to see them lose. I mean, I think if Tampa beats the Islanders, they're going to roll over Vegas. I think if the Islanders somehow beat Tampa, Vegas will be a challenge for them because Tampa Bay will wear down the Islanders, whether they like it or not. And Vegas is also a physical team. But, yeah, I just don't want to see Vegas win the cup.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think with you mentioning scoring as being a big weakness of Vegas, right? They're going to be coming up, but they're going to be coming up against Price, right? And if Price is hot,
right,
it's going to be a harder series than I think you've swayed me to see them more as a threat,
right?
When I've estimated odds of teams winning the cup, right, I initially had Montreal sort of 10-15% chance. I think maybe they're more in the 15-20% bracket.
I don't think they have a chance of winning the Stanley Cup.
You don't?
No, I don't.
They do. Wait a minute. If they get
it doesn't matter.
They do. You never know. You never know.
He's not Patrick Waugh.
No, but he's damn solid.
Here's the thing: they have a young team. They have a lot of, Suzuki, Kotkaniemi.
Put it this way: if we had Price instead of Rask all those years, we would have won 3 times.
If you told me Kotkaniemi is a star, which he might be in a few years, I could see Montreal winning cup. But they have some inexperienced players. I mean, Tyler Toffoli's a good player. He can score goals, power play, 5-on-5, 1-on-1. He can, he's been great for them. It's been an unbelievable pickup for them. Right. But I just think Vegas has more physicality. Shape,
yeah, agreed.
Three are going to be
the better
huge in the
team going
series.
in.
Huge.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I think for Montreal, everything hinges on price. If they have a shot to win it, it's because of price.
That's right.
If Vegas, really pushes the envelope there, and gets in his face and maybe causes some injury problems for him, then Montreal's done.
Oh yeah, of course.
Wow.
So, guys, what did you think about this year's schedule structure, and what impact do you believe it will have on the remaining games?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it's a shorter schedule, right? You went from 82 games down to 56. So I think you're talking about teams that are fresher for the playoffs here. It's been maybe more of a grinding schedule with less breaks, though. So I still think we're talking fresher teams across the board. So I think the playoffs have been more entertaining probably than at least with the exception of maybe last year's. And I'll let Kip speak a little on this now. So
schedule is what it is. It wasn't good. I mean, no one wants to see the same 8 teams.
Yeah,
agreed. 8 times. It's just a 1-year thing. I don't think it'll have any, it has any value going forward other than they might have teams play in one city back-to-back games which they never did before. That's an idea I've heard. Like, the Islanders, they go to Detroit, they'll play 2 games there, which they can, get out 2 games right away so they don't have to travel there twice, let's say.
Crazy. You know what?
And how about the current matchups? In effect on the current matchups,
I mean,
said they never played each other.
Islanders had played Tampa last year, so that helps. I think Trotz will be, he'll have all.
He'll be Trotz, so.
And then same thing with Tampa. So I think with Montreal, Vegas, though, Vegas had not seen too much of Montreal.
Right.
And also another thing, their crowd in Montreal is special. I'd like to see them get more people in that, in that stadium. You look at Vegas, that place is packed. How are they going to win that series if one place is packed, the other place has 3,000, 3,500 fans?
Well, the only bright spot to that is in hockey, of all the sports, hockey is the one where the home ice doesn't mean quite as much.
But when you have the fan disparity, it matters.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying it's not nearly as big an impact as it is in other sports.
But I think the playoffs are so much better this year than with the bubble. I mean, it was the same scenery. It's the same arena every time. Now you have different arenas.
The bubble was terrible. The basketball was terrible too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Did they move Montreal over to the West for this year only? Because they're in the East.
Yes. Right? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
this year.
Yeah, they reseeded when it came to this Final Four. So,
right.
That's how Vegas and Montreal draw each other. I mean, you've played within your division solely, to this point. I will say it definitely made the playoff series with Florida a lot more intense because we played Florida like 4 times in the last 6 games before the playoffs, including our last 2 of the regular season. So, we ended up playing 8 games in a row against
one team. Right. And that definitely changes the complexion in terms of, just the tolerance for shenanigans from both sides. It wears a little thin and it leads to a lot more physical and aggressive play. Some people think that's a good thing. Some people think it's a bad thing. To me, it's the nature of the game, right? And now Canada didn't play the United States during the season, did they? Did they play each other at all? No,
but also none of the Vegas's competitors played outside, the division they were in either.
Right, that's so weird. It's so strange.
So essentially, we're going into series with unknowns, but in terms of the Islanders and Lightning, I mean, there's familiarity from previous years there, right? Where Montreal hasn't even been in the playoff picture, and especially not out west for Vegas to even have a clue. I mean, it goes both ways, right? So Montreal doesn't really have a clue about Vegas either, and it's going to be interesting to watch those teams try to figure each other out.
Montreal's a hungry team. I'll give them that. They have a lot of young talent that's not fully developed, and they have a real good chance of being possibly contender in a few years. I know Weber won't be, Weber forever, but they're on their way to be probably,
How old is Price now? He's in his 30s, right?
Price in 08, he was a 19-year-old rookie. So 13, he's about 31 now. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the future, what's your guys' take on the future of both the Lightning and Islanders franchises and the general landscape of the NHL as a whole?
I'll go first if you don't mind. I think
don't mind at all.
Yeah. There's talk that there'll be an 84-game schedule next year. This with Seattle coming in this way that everyone can play each other 2 times. Every city can see McDavid or McKinnon or Marchand at least one time. I think that's great. I think they should go to the 84 games. To do that, it's unfortunate they play as many games because the playoffs are so grueling. And really, in the end of the day, it's all about the playoffs and how you're built for them. And right now, Tampa's built better than anybody probably since that LA Kings team or that Blackhawks team. And the Islanders are a team that's built for the playoffs. They're very much like the St. Louis team 2 years ago. They play a heavy game, and they have a lot of intangible qualities. And going forward, Tampa Bay should be good. I mean, nobody drafts as good as Tampa Bay. Like talk about Eric, about their depth. That guy Joseph, I don't really know much about him. I know he played a little bit last year. I love Cirelli. I mean, Tampa will be set. The Islanders, they're a little older, but they have Lou Lamoriello, and as they need to clone him because I don't know if he's going to live forever. So
right. That was miss him, that's for sure.
They're going to a new arena, so they're pretty much a 95% sold for next year, and so they're looking great. But the pressure's on for the Islanders. They need to win a cup in the next 2 years. And really, in my opinion, I mean, this is an older squad. They have to win it this year or next year.
Right.
What's your take on drafting for the Islanders? Because I haven't really paid attention to that. Is it solid? Like, what is?
Yeah. Let's talk. Like? Well, I mean, obviously, with Mike Milbury, he depleted the Islanders, right?
Yeah.
So when Garth Snow took over in 2006, 2007, he was dealing with a system with Justin Mappletoft probably was your best prospect. You've never even heard of him. So
I've heard of him.
In the NHL. So, Jeremy Coalition, the Blackhawks coach right now, he was another one. So they had no prospect pool. They rebuilt. Obviously, we know they drafted some decent talent over the years with Josh Bailey, Nelson. They moved up to get Nelson, wonderful pick. They moved up to get Beauvillier several years later. He's probably my favorite player on the team. He's all over the place. If he's effective in this series, the Islanders have a good chance. If he doesn't cash in on his scoring chances, they're probably going to lose. But he'll be all over the ice either way.
Well,
and Mr. E, what about the other franchises of the NHL, the upcoming stars? What's your crystal ball see?
My crystal ball sees, that drafting has been exceptional for Tampa, over the last 6 or 7 years, and that's definitely gonna be important in the future because decisions are going to have to be made about some of the guys like Johnson. Tyler Johnson is going to be a guy that they're probably going to get rid of this offseason.
Finally.
Yeah, right. But it doesn't surprise me that they're probably going to send him to Seattle, and he's probably going to go with a couple of prospects and maybe a few picks, just to sweeten that pot and make sure he's the guy that goes. I think a guy that's probably going to go that I will disagree with completely is Killorn. I think every team needs somebody like that, that shows up for the playoffs and really is a playoff player. unfortunately, I think he's a cap casualty. I think the drafting is going to be more and more important, in terms of keeping cap compliance, because we won't always be able to have Julian Brisebois do the wizardry he did this year to get a cap compliant team. I think another team that's probably going to help is going to be Detroit, because they're send salary cap that way. They need to hit the cap floor, Yzerman obviously is now the general manager in Detroit, so he knows a lot of the guys pretty well. So I think you'll see some trades there, and so I think the future's good. I think there is the potential for a dynasty here. Whether it comes to pass, I don't know, because being a dynasty in the NHL is an incredibly hard thing. I think it'll be interesting to see how Seattle does in the first year, because they're basically getting even more preferential rules than Vegas did during their experience.
Are they going to be allowed to take like best players off of teams?
Well, I don't think they're going to take best players off teams, but they're going to get some really good second liners.
Right. Uh-huh.
What would help Vegas is they got some players that were under the radar, but if you really follow hockey, Carlson was going to be a good fit for them. And, I saw Hall play in Minnesota. I thought, and Alex Tuch, I think teams might be more careful this time around. Unless Columbus, they just make jackasses of themselves all over, every year that franchise. It's always one step forward, 2 or 3 steps back for the Columbus Blue Jackets. As far as the Islanders go, they have a really good prospect coming in next year. His name is Bull Duch. He's a defenseman. He's big. He can score. He can defend. He's compared. His junior coach compared his game to Hedman. Obviously, nobody's Hedman, but he's getting rave reviews, and he'll be, the Islanders have built a good defense. I believe it will get even better down the road. They have 3 NHL prospects that will be NHL players in Bolduc, with probably the biggest upside. Bodie Wild, he was a 2nd-round pick in 2018 under Lou Lamoriello, first year under Lou. And they have a Robin Sala, who was also drafted, I believe, in 2017. Not with Lou, but with the previous regime. And that's their top 3 defensive prospects. They're not as deep offensively, but they have they have drafted some bigger players, size players. There's a guy from Sweden they draft. I can't pronounce his name. Also an American player who's in college. He's got some size at 6'3", Alex Jeffries. So, they do have a decent prospect pool, but the longer Lou is around to run this, they'll have a better chance of getting to where Tampa is. That's where you want to, be as an organization right now.
Yeah, you definitely want to have a deep prospect pool, and a pipeline to pull from. Even if it's for assets to deal to get the guys that you actually need in the lineup to win the cup. Another thing, when will the Islanders finally be done with Josh Ho-Sang?
They are done with him. They are done with him.
When did that happen?
He's in Europe. He didn't make it there. He gained some weight and he didn't make it in Europe.
Wow.
I mean, guy always stuck out to me as a guy who had an attitude problem.
Yes.
There's every team in every sport has some of those, and they never do as good as they would have done if they didn't. That happens.
Hey, Eric, what about this guy Joseph? He's on the 3rd line, 4th line. What's his deal?
He goes between 3rd and 4th line. He's got a great motor. He's a real fast guy. He thinks really well. The one sort of thing with him is his hands tend to lag a little behind. It's the hands are not as bad as, say, JT Brown's hands. So he does have some finish, but it's been interesting to watch him develop. Last year he definitely wasn't ready to be on an NHL roster. and this year he looked a lot more ready. But I think probably next year is really going to be where he starts to break out a little.
And what about Goudreau and Maroon? Do they look like themselves like they did last year?
Goudreau and Maroon look pretty solid. Maroon always looks solid for what it's worth.
Right, and Killorn is Killorn.
Yeah, right. Goudreau, his absence was noticeable in the
Florida series.
Yeah, it was definitely noticeable, and it definitely improved when he came back to the lineup. That was definitely a big boost. And Coleman too has been a really good acquisition. My hope is that they don't lose those two guys, but those guys are definitely due pay raise, and probably being as they hit the UFA market this summer, they're guys that may not be in Lightning uniforms next year, and I sure hope that doesn't come to pass.
One question: do you think Cirelli? I mean, I've loved him since the minute I saw him. You think he'd be an all-star on a different team? He's the second or third line center right now.
He's the third line center, and he's played. Actually, he's not even playing center right now. He's playing wing.
Unbelievable.
Look, you have 8 centers on this team.
Yeah, they say Pajot's the best third line center, and then you come at us with Cirelli. How do we beat Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, Cirelli is a lot of his tenaciousness is fantastic.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
And another guy who probably deserves some discussion is Ross Colton. I don't know if you've seen any of his games, but he's a guy that to me is really similar to Cirelli in terms of speed, in terms of thought, in terms of intensity. He's a rookie,
right? Yeah. I've seen the name. I haven't seen him.
So he didn't make the team out of camp. He came up later from Syracuse, and he's been fantastic.
Really,
and I think that those are two guys that could help to replace Goudreau and Coleman. But
how does Coleman look? What do you mean?
Coleman looks good. Coleman, he's kind of asked to play a more defensive role than I think he's accustomed to. So he's not putting up offensive numbers really. He could. He shoots.
They don't need him to. They're so stacked. It's ridiculous. How are we?
Yeah, right. And that's one thing that's the Lightning mantra for forwards, right? It's to play defense first. Let the guys who are scorers do the scoring and worry about playing in the defensive end and worry about clogging up the neutral zone.
Who's been the MVP or your top 3 players so far in the first 2 rounds? If you have to rank 3 players.
So if I have to rank 3,
3 or 5, whatever you want.
It's tough to choose. Vasilevsky is by far number 1.
Really?
Yeah. Number 2, I would say is probably I would say Ryan McDonough. He's been really stand out.
Yeah, he has.
And I think, for my 3rd, I'm probably going to take Killorn because his timely goals have been so important.
Not Point, not Kucherov.
Those guys are great, right? But they're
you just spoiled. They do things that they're always in the score sheet. So
yeah, right. You have to look a little deeper to find the guys who are really.
It's like the Islanders. They're unsung heroes like Pellich. You might not come in the score sheet, but he's in the top 5. I had to rank him. I'd probably say Varlamov, Sorokin. I'd put him. I have to put them both. I guess. I'd put Palmieri in there, Beauvillier, Pellich. And the Islanders are going to need more from Pulock. I know he was just all right, I felt, against Boston.
So you got all these good teams, good players, Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals.
Oh, it's great.
What are the franchises, though, that are looking to be sitting in the gutter for a while?
Buffalo Sabres, obviously.
Sabres, yeah. That's
the Ottawa Senators are not. They're going to look really good in a year or 2. So that's a big misconception with them. They're an organization that really does build from within, and I expect them in the playoffs within a year or 2.
I think that Vancouver is a team that's going to be, not so great for a while.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think that they've been somewhat mismanaged. and I don't see that improving immediately. Right.
You don't like Travis Green?
I think Travis Green is an okay coach. He's a guy that'll get you to the playoffs, but he's not a guy.
Hughes is so good. Hughes and Peterson, they got some, they have some players.
You've got a couple of guys, but you don't have the deep pipeline, right? And that's what you need to build out. I think in terms of teams that are probably going to turn a corner and do better, I kind of think New Jersey is sort of starting to turn that corner. I mean, I think they're still a few years away from respectability.
Yeah, they're still a little bit away.
But
what do you guys think about the Rangers?
They're up and coming. They'll be dangerous, but thing is with the Rangers, they're always in their own way. They always have to get that star to Broadway, and it's often when that star is already past his prime. So they're almost their own worst enemy sometimes. They have a good draft. They draft very well, probably the top 5 or 6 over the last 10 years in drafting. They haven't found all the, as many goal scorers over the years they wanted, via draft. But now they've drafted Philip Hedl. They have a lot of upside to these players, the young players. Capo Caco doesn't look as good as advertised. He's really not the net presence as or the skate. He doesn't have the skating. So
skating you can improve.
The Rangers will be a playoff team. They'll be a fun team, but I think they'll be typical Rangers and they won't get to that contending level. And that's my hope, obviously. I know I'm extremely
Here's hoping.
But I think they'll stand in their own way down the road. They'll be fun, exciting, but they won't be good enough. You got to be nasty in the playoffs. Chris Jordan, they have him running things. He's a winner, so at least they have that. JD never won a cup, so at least they have someone running the show who's won a cup. But with that owner in Dolan, who knows? But they should be an up-and-coming team. If they don't make the playoffs next year, that would be pretty much terrible. With what their expectations are at this point.
I think this is going to be a lot tougher of a series than what we've seen previously to this point.
I mean, look, remember the Ottawa Senators played Pittsburgh in 2017. They weren't really given much of a chance. Nobody remembers them, but they went to Game 7. They went to overtime against Pittsburgh. Nobody remembers that.
Right.
And that was a team that won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and Ottawa almost came out of nowhere and beat them.
Right.
Vegas Montreal series. I'm going to pick Montreal in Game 1, but you know what? I'm going to make the pick here. I'm going to say that it's going to be Montreal in 6.
Wow, great pick. That's interesting. I think Montreal can win it. They shouldn't, but it wouldn't surprise me no matter which one does because Price right now is really on fire.
But the Islanders would surprise you.
I think Tampa will win and eventually win it all. They probably will. They're the best.
Probably.
Yeah, they're the best team.
I mean, Stanley Cup champion. Yeah, it's going to be out of the East. It's going to be whoever wins this series, but it'll be, in my opinion, against Montreal.
Rob?
West. Montreal is throwing such a monkey wrench in this whole pick'em thing, but I still think Vegas is better. I think they'll win in 6, and I believe that, again, to reiterate, Islanders take it in 6. I don't know which of the first 2 games they're going to win, but they will win one of the first 2 games. I'm not predicting tomorrow. I have no idea. And fortunately for the Islanders, the Tampa Bay doesn't have an infinity amount of rest like they had last time. The rest up before the games is about equal, so that's a good thing.
That's a good point.
And so I'm going to say the Islanders get the revenge factor, and the East win. The East wins no matter what. If Tampa wins or Islanders wins, I think the East takes it.
There you go, guys. We got it.
Hey, thanks for having us on. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Anything closing thoughts before we go? All right.
No,
there you have it.
The Islanders.
Mr. E and E-Kip. Islanders and Tampa Bay in the house.
All right.
Here with the sports show with Bob Spino. Signing off. This is Rob.
This is Bob.